Hi, this is Mrs. Kalinicki. Are you ready to study for your Unit 5 Inequalities test? Test is on Tuesday, December 15th. Here we go. Some topics that are going to be on your test: solving 1- and 2-step inequalities, translating words into inequalities, solving inequalities with rational numbers, that would be like fractions and decimals, and then graphing inequalities. I added that on this list. Some vocab you may want to know: the word inequality means any number sentence that involves one of the following symbols: greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, greater than or less than. Sometimes you might see this symbol. It's an equal sign with a slash through it. That just means not equal to. All right. Some other clue words that you may need to use when you're translating your words into inequalities are words like at most and at least. If I want to say I want at most 12 students in my class, that would be like saying, okay, well, if I have 12 students, would that be okay? Yeah. But I want at most 12, which means I most likely would have preferred less than 12 students. So at most, meaning the maximum number I would want, would be 12. So I prefer less. What if I said at least? I want at least 20 students on the basketball team. Okay, so here's my basketball team, my 20 students. At least 20 means I could have 20, but I would prefer probably to have more. So at least 20, the word at least means greater than or equal to. The word at most, less than or equal to. So be very careful with those words. We're going to need them later. All right, moving on to some examples. Rules, tips, and tricks. Look and see what operations are happening first, and then do the opposite. So again, be detectives, analyze what operation is happening with your variable. This is an adding problem, so in order to get rid of the adding, I'm going to need to work backwards and subtract. I'm going to subtract 9 on both sides. Again, when you're doing this, make sure that your numbers actually do cross out. Don't just assume that you put a 9 underneath it, it's going to cross out. Sometimes it doesn't, so be very careful. 9 minus 9 does make 0, so that will cross out. Y is left over. Your symbol has not changed. These guys, a 7 and a negative 9, would be the rule: different sign, subtract. 9 minus 7 is 2. Taking the larger sign would be negative 2. Y is less than or equal to negative 2. Again, solving a question that looks like this, I don't see any clear operations happening here. I don't see an adding sign. I don't see a subtraction sign. I don't see a multiplying sign. I don't see a dividing sign. But if you have a coefficient, a number, in front of a variable, a letter, that means you are multiplying. So 8 is really multiplying x. In order to get rid of that multiplying, I need to divide. 8 divided by 8 will get 1. Cross out to be 1. And x is greater than 3. So x is greater than 3 is my answer. Now, if you remember, this rule, we used to star it every time it happened in the problem. When dividing or multiplying by a negative number, your inequality symbol is going to flip. For example, negative 5 times x is less than 25. In order to solve a multiplying problem, I'm going to need to divide on both sides. In order to make my negative 5 cross out, I need to divide by the same exact number, negative 5. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 crosses out to a 1. And I get x. 25 divided by negative 5 will get you a 5. Because these are different signs, it will get you a negative 5. And here is where my symbol is going to flip around. Why is it flipping around? Because I am dividing by a negative number right there. I wrote negative 5 on both sides. I'm dividing by a negative number. So I had to flip my inequality symbol. It went from a less than to a greater than sign. Be careful when you see this. All right, moving on to a word problem. The basketball team needs to score at least 82 points. Hey, we saw that word before, at least. 82 points this season to set a new school record. They already have scored 37 points. Write an inequality to represent this situation. Solve the inequality and graph the solution on a number line. Lots of steps on this one. Let's read it one more time. It's a good strategy when you're using a word problem. The basketball team needs to score at least 82 points. Okay, so the word at least we talked about on the last slide. At least means greater than or equal to. I want to get at least 82 points. 82 points, at least. Means 82 would be okay, but I would probably want more. At least 82 points. So far, I have scored 37 points. Okay, so far I have 37 points. But I'm going to score some more points over the course of the season. So I don't know how many points that is yet. I can call it P. I can call it X. Up to you. I don't know how many points I'm going to score, but that's going to be added to the 37 points I already have. If you wrote it a different way, that would be okay too. You could also have written 37 plus P is greater than or equal to 82. Who remembers what property says that these two are equal to each other? 37 plus P and P plus 37. You remember what property it is? I'm going to type it. It's the commutative property. All right, moving on. So let's solve it. So we wrote the inequality, check. Now we have to solve the inequality. Solving and adding problem, all you do is subtract on both sides. Again, making sure that when you do subtract or add, that they actually do cross out. These are different signs, so they would subtract to 0. So that's good. That's what we want to happen. P is left over, greater than or equal to 82 minus 37. I got to borrow. That makes 5. And 7 minus 3 makes 4. I did not switch my inequality symbol here because I was not dividing or multiplying by a negative number. So be careful. We don't just go flipping signs for nothing. We have to be either dividing or multiplying by a negative number. So my sign stayed the same. All right, let's do some more practice problems. Again, this is a great time if you want to practice yourself to do them by yourself and then come back to the video and check your answers. All right, here we go. Solve for x. In order to solve, I could do a few things. This parentheses means distribute, so I could distribute first. If you want to, go ahead. You would get 6x minus 24 is greater than, less than, 24. Then you would have to add 24 on both sides. We're following SADMEP, which is PEMDAS backwards. In order to solve, I have to work backwards. I would write 6x is less than 48, and then divide by 6 on both sides. Ugh, not enough room, sorry. My 6's will cross out, and I will be left with x is less than 8. I'm going to erase it, so if you need it, just pause the video. Another way to do this is how we were doing them in class. Instead of distributing, which is just going to take you an extra step, you can see that I'm multiplying by 6 and I'm subtracting 4. But PEMDAS would tell me that I would subtract first and then multiply. So work backwards. I have to get rid of this multiplying and then get rid of the subtraction. I get rid of multiplying by dividing. 6 divided by 6 crosses out to a 1. I now have x minus 4, all by itself, no parentheses needed, is less than 24 divided by 6 is 4. And now I can get rid of this 4, which is subtracting right now, by adding. And again, I'll get x is less than 8. Same answer, just a little bit less work. So it's up to you how you want to solve it. Next question. Which inequality is shown on the number line below? Ooh, interesting question. We've never done one like this before. Take a look. All right. So there are a couple things I'm looking for on my graph to figure out which symbol I'm going to use. I look at the direction of my arrow. That will tell me, as long as my variable is first, which it is in my choices, this direction will tell me which arrow I should be choosing. My arrow that is pointing to the right is either B or D. The other thing I have to look at is what kind of dot is being used. This is a closed dot, which means 2 is actually going to be an answer, which means it's going to be greater than, all these numbers are greater than, or equal to 2. So choice D is your correct choice. Moving on to the next one. Graph the solution set of the inequality. Solutions just mean answers. So I want to get the answer to this problem. 4x is greater than negative 8. Again, this is showing multiplying, even though I don't see a symbol. A 4, a number next to a variable, is multiplying. To get rid of multiplying, I divide. My final answer on this side will be negative 2. Now the real question, do I flip the sign or don't I? Again, the rule is if you multiply or divide by a negative number, you flip the sign. Notice, I am not dividing by a negative number. That's a positive number. So my symbol will stay the same. Be careful. Now I look at my choices. There are 2 arrows that are pointing to the right, not B and not D. And it looks like one of them has a negative 2 and one of them is a positive 2. So my correct answer is going to be C. The next one, I noticed looks a little different than some of the other problems I've done. That's because there are 2 x's involved. Well, all I need to do is just combine those 2 x's. By using my rule, different signs subtract. A negative 2 and a positive 8 will get you a positive 6x minus 3 is less than negative 69. To solve that, I'm going to have to do PEMDAS backwards, adding 3 on both sides first. Different signs. I'm going to subtract. I'm going to get negative 66. Going to need to extend my page. There we go. And now to get rid of 6, I'm going to divide. Leaving my final answer, negative 11. Again, I didn't multiply or divide by a negative number, so my symbol will stay the same. Less than negative 11. Okay, x is less than negative 11. And final problem, what is the solution of 4x plus 7 is less than 35? Again, I'm using SADMEP, S-A-D-M-E-P. That's PEMDAS backwards. Doing some adding or subtracting first. This is an adding problem, I have to subtract. 4x is less than 35 minus 7. 28. And now to get rid of that 4, dividing both sides by 4, and I get x is less than 7, choice D. Hope you had a great time reviewing. Good luck on that test. Bye.